So I don't know if you can tell from this live stream, but there's just like a lot of birds like waking everybody up in the morning. It's like 6:45, 7-ish a.m. in the morning right now. And the roosters going crazy, the pigeons, the all the birds, the parakeets, like just everyone is just shrieking their heads off, and they're like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And it's very, very cute. It's very sweet and endearing. If you're sleeping and if you're trying to sleep, it's not cute. It is just like a whole lot of loudness and screaming in your ears. If you're sleeping and your windows don't close, like for us, our windows don't close, and we're like totally exposed to the elements. Okay, let me tell you about my morning. So I woke up this morning at like 5 or 6 a.m., something like that. No, maybe earlier. I think it was like, because it was really dark, it was like maybe like 5 a.m. and like the roosters. I woke up from the roosters. And actually, Andrew was already awake, and he was like, well, I couldn't fall asleep because there's so much noise here, I literally can't fall asleep. And so I'm like, oh man, okay. But like, you know, we were still in bed, it was snuggly and whatever. And then, so like, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I get up to go to the bathroom. I don't have my contact lenses, it's dark. I step on a pile of poop. Okay, why is there poop inside of my home, you ask? Because there's a lot of animals that are inside because the windows don't close. It's not like an air-conditioned environment, so basically all kinds of animals. Get it? So that poop comes from the Tuki gecko. So it's like these really big geckos. So like usually the geckos are very small. They're like this small. These geckos, the Tuki geckos, they're like big. They're big, chunky geckos, and they're very cute. And they make a noise, and it goes ee-ow, 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 and that's their noise. And they're called Tuki. Literally, they're called Tuki geckos. So they're very cute, but then they poop all over your stuff. And so they poop on the floor. I stepped in it, and I was like, oh man, okay. So I'm going to the bathroom, like getting ready. I'm like, you know what? Like, everything is just feels so gross and messy. Like, I don't really feel like going back to sleep. I'm gonna get up. So I get up, I go to sit down on a chair. Go to sit down on the chair, and there's a cat. She's just sitting there, and she's just staring at me, and she already knows me by now, so she has zero intention to get up. Just a reminder, this is not my cat, not my toot. Just random animals that feel comfortable to just hang out in our space, which is very, very cute and cool. But it's like, also, if you don't have windows, then you get no sleep. So, ooh, got a mosquito bite. Oh, I'm getting bitten, but I don't want to go downstairs because I really want to do this live stream. So yeah, that's been how it is. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna come and do this live stream. So I get up. And I see that there's poop on my pants because someone pooped on my pants. And I was like, oh man, and I didn't even notice it. I was like pulling on my pants and I felt something sticky, and I like looked down. I was like, oh, there's poop on my pants. So I went to the sink and I washed it, and then I came. By the way, let me show you the view of this beautiful place. If you're here, who's here? Sound off. Joining me in the morning in Bali. So this is my view. This is the guest house. This is the morning here in Ubud. It's gorgeous. It's really like imagine having this to wake up to. Hello, Nate. What's up? What's up, Nate? What's up, Nate? So, yeah, this is like, I mean, I'm not in like some special place. This is literally our home, where it's actually our last day, and we're headed actually to a place is just not far from here. That's just a little farther out from Ubud. So two things we wanted was we wanted more space, more like the windows closing and being able to be quiet and having air conditioning. Air conditioning really helps because then our things don't get moldy and for a few reasons. So air conditioning helps. So we're moving to a place that has AC, the windows closed, slightly bigger, and is more far out. The other thing is that Ubud is actually very busy. It's like a very there's so much traffic, so we wanted to be in a place where there's like less traffic. What's up, Josh? What's up? Truth shall set you free. Nate says there's not much going on in Minnesota, and truth shall set you free. Ask me if I miss the U.S. There's certain things that I really, really miss, especially here. I really miss just certain things, more like first world stuff, and I think it's just because of the lifestyle. It's not necessarily because everywhere outside of the US is like this, but Bali is just special, and it's like very jungly. There's a lot of bugs, and the infrastructure is not like the US. I think I miss certain things about the infrastructure. I really miss Amazon Prime. I miss being able to order something and it just showing up at my door. I miss being able to I don't know. There's certain little things that I miss. Things that I don't miss, obviously, is just the pace of life is so much slower. Someone asked, Sachucha Saifi asked, where is Bali? Bali it's in Indonesia, and it's in, so there's Java, which is the main island right now of where the capital is, Jakarta, and all those things. It's right east of Java. So it's the island that's right east of Java. That's Bali. And Bali is mostly a Hindu island. The rest of Indonesia is a Muslim, and it's a Muslim country officially, but Bali is special because it's mostly a Hindu island. And I don't know if you can see this. There's a lot of these shrines and Hindu stuff everywhere. So yeah, that's Bali. Josh said, did you see what I told you about my professor? I did, I just never, I have to read it again. Trisha Saifi said, did you find yourself a sugar daddy down there? I have Andrew. So, you don't really need a sugar daddy if you're living in Bali. I mean, if you're like me and you're coming with you're not coming totally broke. I mean, we meet a lot of people that are totally broke. They come here totally broke, and they are just living on the fly. They're living in people's homes. I mean, I'm telling you, our rent is $400 a month, which in the U.S. would have been unheard of. We would have never. I have never seen a place in the U.S. that's $400 a month, but this is $400 a month. It's pretty cool. So we actually see people that come here with no money. I was talking to a woman yesterday who's one of my favorite people, actually, my fitness instructor. She she was telling me about how she ended up here. She had a kid. Actually, she had a kid in Vietnam. But she was just telling me about her story, traveling, expatting, and it's really amazing how much you can do with a credit card, or just a tiny bit of savings, like a couple $1,000s to last you for a while. And it's amazing how much you can survive, what you can eat. There's just a bit of a shift in lifestyle, but it's not even that crazy terrible. It's just think of what your body can sustain in itself. And I think the main reason why a lot of people are not able to move offshore and kind of do the nomad thing, actually is medications. People are very medicated, especially in the United States. People are very medicated. And another thing is, like, there's a few things about Americans that I think makes us special, uniquely unable to do stuff like this, that a lot of people are able to do. Americans are very not multilingual. Oh my gosh, the cat is here. She's joining me. Do you guys want to see the cat? No, don't come here. Don't come here. I'm doing my live stream. Here. This is the one. This is a cat that was sitting on my chair. She was sitting on my chair. Okay, so when did you move to Bali? 3.5 months ago. We moved here 3.5 months ago. So for anyone that doesn't know our story, oh, you didn't see the cat, Nate? Here's a cat. Hello kitty. There she is. Don't sit on my lap. No, I don't have any food. Okay. Okay, so what's the story? Why did we move? Wow, I'm so glad you're asking, because I feel like I've said it so many times on this channel, but I still love to talk about it, but I don't want to like bore you guys. So anyways, we started traveling 2 years ago. Yes, we started traveling 2 years ago. What do you want? No, I don't have anything. So we started traveling. These cats are so funny. Like, they just keep having babies, and then the baby cats are like, anyways, and they get into fights. So 2 years ago, I was living in Texas. Andrew was living in Minnesota, where Nate is from. So north, south. So we were like kind of dating, like we were like dating on and off. We were really into each other, but there was just so much going on, and it was crazy. And I was also just all over the place. I was mentally barely holding on. I was having gummies every day. I was doing fix and flip with my home, and I was house hacking. And I wrote a book about all this stuff, by the way. So I was basically like barely surviving in Dallas. I had 2 homes that I was like fixing up so that I can rent out. And even while I was living in one of them and renting out the other one for like the highest rent that I could think of, it still wasn't able to sustain the initial cost of, like, I was putting a lot of construction and fixing up work into it, stuff that I couldn't do myself. And I was paying a lot of contractors, and the contractors were charging, there was just all kinds of contractors. And I was also working at a restaurant. I felt very squeezed. I felt kind of, I don't know how you guys are doing right now, but 2 years ago in Dallas, I was struggling a lot. I felt very squeezed. I felt like even though I would work at a restaurant, I would eat the food at the restaurant that I worked at as a waitress. And it was really good food, and like, I was so careful with my finances, but it just seemed like I was still barely hanging on, ever. Like, it always felt like I was in a crazy amount of debt. I was really skinny, like unhealthy kind of skinny, not like cool, sexy kind of skinny. I felt very just downtrodden. The only way that I could like do things was I was just having my THC gummies every single day, all day. Like, that was like the only thing that was keeping me okay, was my gummies and my live streams. Actually, my videos that I was making for you guys, was that and my gummies. Like, I was just, really grateful to be doing that. I don't know if you guys can hear the sound of the birds. There's so many of them, and they're so loud. What up, Andrew? Andrew Christopher? So that's, Josh says he's been in Bali for the past 2 months. Okay, so let me finish my story. So, I think I would have seen you, Josh. I would know what you look like. I would have noticed you. It's not, you do end up seeing people, like eventually, if you're in the same, if you're both in Bali, or at least in Ubud, you end up seeing like a lot of the same people. So anyways, so I was going through this stuff. I was like, I have to get out. I have to like basically just get out to get out of all this debt and crazy stuff. And then also just the culture, the environment. I just felt like everybody, it wasn't just me, I just felt like everybody was squeezed all the time. Everybody was just so drained, and like I felt like I was being affected by everybody else's energy too. In addition to myself being squeezed, I was having to deal with like, there's so many things about American culture that I just never want to go back just for that, just for the culture aspect of it. But I felt very, very affected by it. And then I was like, hey, like I wanna get out of here. That was kind of like my Hail Mary. That was like, you know, some people jump off a cliff. For me, it was like, oh, I'm gonna leave the country. Like that was my biggest, scariest thing was to leave the country. It was basically like jumping off a cliff for me. And I told Andrew about it, and Andrew thought about it kind of back and forth, and he's like, you know what, okay, if you're definitely serious about this and you're seriously doing this, I'm joining you. So Andrew joined me, and we met up in Miami airport. We flew to Cartagena, Colombia, and then we basically started this journey of just living offshore. We lived in Colombia for almost a year. We traveled while we were in Colombia. We like flew to other places. We used Bogota as our base. We traveled around Colombia. We spent a few weeks in Ecuador. We spent a few months in Argentina, some time in Uruguay, and like visited other places like, I don't know, Costa Rica. Spent 6 months in Mexico. While we were in Mexico, we were already going through this like transformational thing where we're like, okay, I sold everything, basically everything, almost everything I had sold back in the States. Woo! That was my hair. Just, there's like so many bugs everywhere, and I feel like I don't like my part. So I had sold almost everything. I had written my book, House Hackers Anonymous, which is basically my escape plan. If you guys want to know my escape plan, if you're like, oh, I want to get out of this country and I want to like survive and I want to just get rid of everything and I want to like not be in debt, like House Hackers Anonymous was my escape plan. So I wrote that, and then we were like, okay, so now we're both getting sick nonstop. We started getting sick while we were mostly in Argentina. Was really bad. We got really sick in Argentina, just because we were moving around so much. When you haven't lived in a lot of places for a while, and then all of a sudden, especially your immune system is not so strong because you're stressed out. So when you're stressed out, and then all of a sudden you're like living in one country to another, and your body isn't able to adjust, you're gonna start getting sick because you're gonna start getting the viruses and the pathogens and all those places. Ooh. It's like a hornet or something, like a wasp. So anyways, you're gonna start getting sick. So we got really sick in Argentina. Why didn't we stay in Colombia? Because of visa reasons, and we couldn't. We were supposed to get the resident visa. We couldn't for a few reasons, and then we just like, you know what? We might as well just use this as an opportunity to keep exploring. So, I don't like my hair. It's really bothering me, but I don't know how to fix it. So, anyways, we didn't like Argentina at all. We were only in Buenos Aires, and we were planning to visit the rest of the country and see more, and it was just, we really didn't like it. And I didn't like it because it was cold, and I really don't like places that are cold. I also didn't like the culture. I felt like the culture was very much like the US in a lot of ways, which I'll try not to elaborate too much here, but just very close-minded, very not strong culture. Like people like only speak their own language. They kind of live in their little bubble. they're not going to survive to the next generation. Like, none of these people are going to survive. And it's just hard to be around. It's hard to watch, and it's also the energy is hard to be around. You absorb it. It's very miserable. Everyone is sick all the time. It wasn't just us. Like, we would walk around Buenos Aires, and like everybody was ugly and sick, and like even in the nice parts, like people would be like, oh, but you didn't go to this area, you didn't go. No, we went to all the areas. We were in all the areas, in Palermo and Puerto Madero and all the nice places in Buenos Aires. We were there, and people were very ugly. I'm sorry if you live in Buenos Aires and you think everybody is pretty. Maybe you need to spend more time in more places in the world where people are actually beautiful and healthy, and they don't look like they're dying from some neurological condition, because like literally every other person we would see in the street was having some kind of like polio or limp or something like that, was like some kind of neurological thing or whatever. It was hard to watch, and I don't want to be insulting, so I don't want to be in a place where I'm going to insult the people there inadvertently because I'm going to say how I feel. And you know what? Screw anyone thinks that I'm being insulting. Like, just don't watch my channel. But anyways, so I have, as you can see, I have like a lot of feelings about that era. Like I was like just feeling really suffocated in Buenos Aires, and we got really sick. So because we got really sick, we decided to move to Tulum, Mexico, because Tulum had exactly what I needed. So I'm really happy that we moved to Tulum. I loved Tulum. Tulum was kind of like here. We were living in this like resort that was all inclusive. It had everything we needed. It had a little kitchen. Like, it was really perfect, and we got a great deal. But it was a deal. It wasn't how much the place cost normally, and we had to leave within like 3 months of being there, and go to, and actually it was high season in Tulum. We had to leave and go to another place. We chose San Cristobal in Chiapas, and Andrew his vertigo was getting really bad too, so we're like, okay, let's move to a place where it's not as hot and he could be, I don't know. He likes it colder, I like it warmer. So we moved to San Cristobal. We're like, okay, we heard it's not that terrible. Spoiler, it was very cold. I really did not like it, how cold it was. I loved the people that we met in San Cris. Actually, probably the best community that we've ever met so far was in San Cristobal in Chiapas, in Mexico. It was a really, really awesome group of people. We loved our community there, and it was from our friends, Anthony and Isabel. They introduced us to people there, and we fell in love with the people there, and we're like, okay, this is where we want to stay. But we got really sick because they had a sewage problem, and in addition, so we were already sick. We were already having all these nervous problems, and it was our fight or flight was popping up. So constant fight or flight over time, chronic fight or flight, and we started to develop vagus nerve problems. So if anybody has asthma, allergies, arthritis, I'm thinking of all the A's, autism, vertigo, chronic bowel problems, like chronic bowel issues, ear infections, sensitivity, chronic behavioral problems. A lot of these things are rooted from having kind of like a chronically injured vagus nerve, and that's basically from being in your fight or flight for too long. And then on top of that, like getting sick in our fight or flight. And so we were basically in that stage. And then on top of that, there was a sewage problem in San Cris. And we didn't understand how anybody was still alive and surviving. We knew that we wanted to be there. We loved the people there. I was not crazy about the cold, but we were able to manage. There were fireplaces in places, not in our home, but the main thing that got us was that we started to have diarrhea every single day. Every single day we were shitting ourselves. We would like get up, go outside, and like being sick made it impossible to do anything, to work, to do anything. Like, I don't know how I got House Hackers Anonymous out there. I mean, I know how. It's because I was in Colombia mostly when I wrote it. So Colombia was a great place for us to be productive because we were actually able to be healthy and invest in our health. But Argentina, Mexico, like specifically San Chris, it was impossible because we were just pooping all day, diarrhea, dehydrated, pooping in bed, poop in bed. The few times that we would like go outside, we would come home with poop in our pants. Not exaggerating. Go outside, a few feet, you're walking outside, and the diarrhea hits again, and you're just like, you're not able to control it. It's very unpleasant, and you're just in pain all the time. It's just not fun, and it's like connected to everything else. So it was connected to all these other anxieties. So I had access to gummies again while I was in Mexico, even though in Argentina and Colombia I was drinking the whole time. In Mexico I was only having gummies, so that really helped to try to like ease some of the anxiety. But we knew that we can't sustain this, and as soon as we have some strength to get on a plane to go somewhere where we can recover properly, we had to do it. So we got on a plane. We went to Dallas because I needed to get rid of a few more things. I wanted to sell the condo. I wanted to get rid of my car, all the stuff in it, like clean slate, really, really, really disconnect from the things that I had in Dallas. And then we had a layover in Los Angeles. We met up with my family. My family met Andrew for the first time for a few hours, and then we came here. And then it's been 3.5 months since we've gotten here. We've been having coconuts every single day, coconuts every single day. Like, we signed up for this like fitness club that had a lot of the amenities that we needed: swimming, chill, co-working, all these things. And honestly, the first like 2 months we were just in bed the whole time, sleeping, even though it's very loud. I don't know if you can hear it. Animals are just, and so you might be hearing it from the distance, but like our home is down there. It's like right in front of all the roosters and everything. So it's really hard to stay sane. It's just never quiet, and it's like right in your ear, and they're just screaming the whole time, the birds and the roosters and everything. So, but nonetheless, we spent at least first month and kind of second month just sleeping nonstop. And then we started like being more active. I started going to classes like core workouts, and like, I don't know if you can tell, you can't tell, but I'm growing a sturdy set of ab muscles, and like dance classes and like language classes and all these things, and it's just been really nice. And another thing that we've been doing routinely, in addition to like coconuts and another thing that I've been doing, that we've been doing routinely a lot, is that we've been doing this sauna pool rotation, where we go, and our fitness club has a sauna, so, and a pool, and like actually 3 pools. So get it in the sauna, pool, sometimes steam room, pool. They have an ice bath too, so it's like basically rotating between sauna, steam room, ice bath, pool. So it's like hot, cold, and that's really been nice. So yeah, I'm hoping that being in a place where just our nights will be more restful, because we won't keep waking up in the morning or waking up in the middle of the night from all the wildlife. So hoping that that's really gonna affect us in a positive way, because we're still so sensitive, and like we're recovering really fast. The recovery is amazing, like no diarrhea, like sometimes diarrhea, because diarrhea, it's like it's connected. It's all connected to your when you have these issues, like they're all these like nerves are connected. So sometimes I have diarrhea, but like it's not all the time. I actually, most of the time, I don't. I have ear infections sometimes, but more and more lately, like these problems have been going away totally. And uh, yeah, and like another thing is that I haven't had any alcohol, haven't had no drugs, like really just I had an ibuprofen for certain things like my ear infection. I was putting antibiotic eardrops in it to get it out. But and then also when I had my IUD removed. Um, but other than that, like I haven't been having, there's no drugs are illegal here, recreational drugs. And even when you go to the pharmacy to get like your medicine or whatever, you're like, I need ibuprofen or whatever, they're not going to give you like the whole thing. They're going to say, how many do you need? How many pills do you need? And you get like maybe one or two. Joe says he's had an ear infection for over a month. Wow, I'm so sorry. That sounds really painful, actually. Um, da- Josh says daily NAC and dandelion root will help a great deal. Wow, that's really interesting. Maybe that will help. Maybe that will help you, Joe. What I've been doing is I just have these antibacterial ear drops from the pharmacy, and I've been just putting it in my ear. So, and it goes away like right away actually. So, the antibacterial ear drops, it's got the antiseptic part, and then it also has the lidocaine. So it, like while it goes in your ear, it like also calms the surface down a little bit. That's really been helping me. My friend told me that I don't need any of these things, and all I need to do is eat raw garlic and put raw garlic in my ear, which I don't doubt that it helps. We've been eating just like a lot of raw, healthy foods, like a lot of raw fruits, vegetables. There's like bugs and everything, so. And also, I've just been getting to know my body really, and discovering how when you're not listening to anybody else's expectation, like when you're actually listening to your body and you're giving it what it needs, and let's say your body you need a massage every day. Like for me, like another thing I've been doing a lot is massages because they're so cheap, $6.83 for an hour of really, really great massage. So when you're actively listening to your body and like finding out what it needs and giving it what it needs, over time you start to realize that you don't actually need a lot. Your body doesn't actually need that much. It's just that like but like the more you drug your body and you try to like silence the voice that's trying to tell you what it needs, the more your body is going to need. That's just the way it works. Is the more you try to silence a child that's trying to cry to you and saying that it needs something, the more you try to keep them silent, the louder their voice is going to get and the more they're going to scream, and the more sad and upset they're going to be and depressed, and it's going to be harder later on to try to make them feel better because they've been ignored for so long. That's how your body is with drugs. It's like drugs are good because they get you to the next step of like basic survival, but the thing is like the more you try to silence these voices that are trying to tell you what they need, oh, I can't be here, I can't do this, I need a comfortable bed or whatever, like whatever it is that your body is wanting, I can't be in this relationship, I can't be in this job, the harder it's going to be to make yourself happy, the more you're going to need. And then you're going to think to yourself, oh, like I needed all these things. No, you didn't need all these things. And over time, when you start to like actually take care of your body and its needs, over time, what I've been discovering for myself is that I actually don't need that much to be happy. And like you could actually survive on very little, and you can survive a pretty dang awesome life in another country. I don't think I would ever go back to living in the States, even if I had like so much money. And I've said this a million times, just because there just isn't like I don't know. There's just not the things that I would want. There's just, even if you're like super wealthy. The super wealthy people in the States are coming here. And actually, one thing you notice is like, you're around only like wealthy people in a lot of situations. Not always. There's also a lot of brokies. Joe says salt gets a bad rap. My body craves it often. Thank you, Josh. Josh is giving you the best compliment. Josh says you'll have to. Uncle Sam won't let you stay overseas forever. Probably, I think what's going to happen is enough people that can leave the States are going to leave, and they're just going to add more taxes on expats. I think that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to add more taxes and restrictions on expats. They already have. Like, actually, Trump is the one that did it, that he did the guilty tax, and Biden continued it, and like, their right, left, doesn't matter. People that are in the States are going to feel really squeezed, and they're going to feel really disgruntled that there's this group of people that can leave that are leaving. And they're going to say, well, America first, why don't you stay and fight? Blah, 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 blah. Why don't you stay in our little shithole and like be miserable with us, basically? Because we're miserable, so why don't you also be miserable? Which I understand the sentiment, because I was miserable too. So I completely get it. So this is what's gonna happen. They're all gonna be miserable, and they're gonna be like, oh, you are all just selfish people, and you're just going and like taking care of yourselves. And they're gonna add more taxes and restrictions. They're gonna try to make it harder. But I will worry about it then when it happens. But I've written an escape plan for myself, which pretty much outlines my personal plan, like what I'm gonna do. You know exactly what's gonna happen in there, because it says exactly like what and I think it's, for the most part, it's still the same. My House Hackers Anonymous, I'm living and breathing every word of that book. That's been my, and the thing is that like, when you're like, the things that the kind of advice I would tell myself now probably wouldn't have worked for me like back then, because I wouldn't have even been able to relate to it. Like right now I would tell my younger self, hey, you don't have to worry about money or all these things. Like, just do what you're doing, have your restaurant job, keep your restaurant job, whatever it is that you're doing, and just learn how to calm your vagus nerve. Start doing yoga. And my younger self would have said, no, I can't be doing yoga now. I can't be like doing these things, like these woo-woo stuff. Like, no, I need to be in survival mode. I need to be doing something. I can't, my brain is too crazy right now to be. So like, everybody's advice is like really, really good, and even my own advice, it's all good, but and everybody is true, but like, you kind of have to find what works for you at the stage that you're in, because even my own advice wouldn't have worked on myself at a certain phase where I wasn't ready to deal with it. So yeah, I feel like Joe says yes, if we could have seen where contentment was when we were younger. Yeah, like, I feel like the happiest and most successful people that I've seen are outside of the States, but also like, I was struggling myself, so I wasn't probably able to notice the happy people, so maybe there was a lot of happy people in the States and I just didn't notice them. So like, this is all my personal experience. Like, everything I talk about is my personal experience. So yeah, but I do think that I never want to go back, and I've been talking to like people here. A lot of people come here, like moms, they'll come here and they'll just like have a baby. They'll come with like no money, they'll have a baby. And so I was telling you, my fitness instructor, she was telling me about like her birth. She was saying like, basically, don't bother listening to anybody that says that you need that children are expensive and that you need XYZ to have children. So she's been a fitness instructor basically her whole adult career. And she said, like, basically, like, she had her baby in Vietnam. The only reason they went to hospital is because her husband was worried about her doing a home birth. He didn't want any, just, he was scared of maybe like a complication happening. And so that's why they went to hospital. They went to the hospital. She didn't let the doctors or nurses touch her or anything throughout the birth. She gave birth naturally, whatever. And then she said it was like, she breastfed the baby, so there was no like, oh, formula, whatever. The most expensive things that they had to pay for was the diapers. What else are you paying for? And she said, and then after that, she said the most expensive things was international schooling, because they're moving around to different places. There's international schools everywhere, and it's so much fun. Your kids are basically around all children of all over the world, different countries, and they speak different languages, and basically it's just it's really fun. And a lot of families are living like a few months at a time in different in different countries, and they like move around. What a prodigal heel. And they just, so that's the most expensive thing. But honestly, like, talking to people and like the tuition they pay for their kids, even like the most expensive tuition, the wealthiest people, is nothing compared to what people pay in the States. Nothing. Like you're gonna laugh. And the thing is, it's sad to me that like everybody's living this lifestyle except Americans. But if more Americans lived this lifestyle, it wouldn't be possible for everybody else, because it would become really expensive. So that's why it's like, in a way, it's good that more Americans aren't doing this, because if the bubble was popped and Americans realized that on like what they live, they could be doing so much better in another country, and they might even be able to like have a business and be comfortable and do all these things. Nobody else would be able to do it, because we would just drive up the prices on everything. So, but it's just really interesting to learn about how much you can, like, how much of like the whole health system, the medical system, big pharma, like how much of it is really a scam. It's just a scam. And I feel sad for people that are a victim to it, basically, that don't know any better. Myself, my younger self included, like, that think that you need it. Like, you really, and nobody can tell you this, like, you would have to experience it for yourself. And I think a lot of people have been born and bred into it, so there's no way that they will ever experience it. You grew up with one paradigm, you speak one language, so you just can't know any different. You can't know that there's a whole reality out there where your body could thrive and could do so much and would be so happy, and the outlook isn't bleak. It's not a bleak outlook. It's just in your paradigm right now, it's a bleak outlook, because, I really like the way that kids, I mean, in Bali, like the kids, and it's all local kids and expat kids, and they go to school together. So your kids are going to school with locals and other expats. They're speaking Indonesian, they're speaking other languages. Everybody speaks multiple languages. The only people that don't speak multiple languages are Americans. Even the Canadians some of them speak French. Actually, all the Canadians that I've met here are multilingual. The only people that aren't multilingual are usually Americans. And you might say, oh, like, that's not important. That's not important. Like, why do you need multiple languages for? Like, what's so special? It's just speaking different languages. It's not useful. But it's your brain. Your brain is different when you speak multiple languages. Not only your brain, your psychology is different. You're exposed to like multiple paradigms. You're not stuck in one paradigm. You're able to be fluid. You're able to be controlled less easily. You're able to move around different realities and not be controlled as easily. Your brain is more fluid. Josh says he's got to run. Thanks for joining. I feel really honored that you joined. So, yeah, your brain is just more fluid when you speak more languages. It doesn't matter what the language is. It could be just like the most useless sounding language. I mean, a lot of people say, like, what's the point of Indonesian? Because it's just in Indonesia. But actually, Joe says being bilingual is very important. As a Minnesotan, I was clueless in the Bronx. That's funny. Yeah, the Bronx has a special accent. I lived in the Bronx for a little bit. When I graduated from college, I spent a few months in the Hamptons, and then I spent like a month in the Bronx. I was living in people's homes. I wasn't like living by myself in the Hamptons. I was living, actually, my friend's husband was a rabbi of a synagogue, and they had like an empty synagogue dorm, and I slept in it with like a bunch of kids, basically, and it was a lot of fun. It's free, like a free place to live, and it was fun. Prodigal Heel says, my ex-supervisor was a linguistic, and his brain was so fluid it turned into jelly, I think. Joe says New York was a great experience. You know, it's so funny, like, New York is cool, right? But I feel like because I was there so often, I didn't see it as cool. I saw it as, like, normal, right? But I met this French girl here, and she was like, oh, I'm so excited. She's, like, working so hard to get her visa so that she could be a nomad in New York City. She wants to nomad in New York. And I was like, why would you nomad in New York? Like, we come to Bali. Why would you nomad in New York? Because it's not special to me. And she's like, I wanted to try somewhere new and exotic. And I was like, what? You think New York is new and exotic? But, like, that's just me, because I grew up going to New York City all the time. I'd go, like, at least once a year. And, yeah, like, when I was a teenager, I would go, like, at least once a year. And then there's like people saying that New York is so exotic, and it really makes you know how the world is so big, and there's like so many different perspectives. Like, people think that New York is so exotic, and like, you know, it's just interesting. So everywhere is exotic when you haven't been there, and you just don't, it's just a different place. It's just, yeah. Joe says, I was sent there to fix AC units for Sears in 2002. I drove to every borough every day. I don't miss the pay pass charges. Ooh. Flies. Wow. That's like a pretty big drive just to fix AC units. I hope it was, well, it's actually cool because you probably did multiple. Yeah, you did a bunch of them probably. That's cool. So, nice. So that's what it's gonna be. We're gonna move to this new place. It's hopefully going to be very quiet at night. We're gonna sleep really well, and we don't know how it's gonna be. And have good Wi-Fi so I can do live streams. Joe says they put me in East Rutherford. I don't know how to say it. Drove out to Great Neck often. Oh yeah, I have an uncle that lives in Great Neck. He's Persian. Great Neck is known for having a lot of Persians. Persians. Yeah, there's a lot of birds here. It's nice. It's nice when it doesn't bother you. So that's been the update. On the whole thing, the healing journey, the travels, and I basically, like, I wrote the number one question that people ask is, how are you surviving financially? And I wrote a book about it, basically my escape plan, my financial plan. That's House Hackers Anonymous. It's the book. Right now, I am working on my shop. Right now, I'm working on my shop. I've been talking, I don't know if you watched my old videos where I was talking to manufacturers about my own clothing line, but basically, right now, my business is selling things online. I'm working on it. I'll tell you guys how it goes. Playing around with Google Ads. I'm discovering that Google Ads is very expensive, so I'm trying to look for like, I'm just trying to explore advertising, like what advertising thing is good. So right now I'm like, for example, I'm trying to sell yoga mats. Google Ads is very expensive for selling something so small. Like I feel like with Google Ads you should sell something pricier for it to be worth it, but I also might just have my settings off, so I'm going to meet with someone at Google and see what the deal is with that. And ultimately, like, I'm just used to being so stressed out about making money, so like I feel like I've had this whole long break, and it was actually my body being so sick that I couldn't even think about making money and just living on my savings. And I sold everything, so living on my savings. But now I'm able to think more clearly and get back into it, and selling things online is my chosen business. But we talk to people, and people are doing all kinds of things to make money. The economy is really great out here. Actually, there's a lot to do, whether or not you have a work visa, and if you have like Kitas, like an investor Kitas, or like a business, I think it's called PMA, these Kitas, you could actually work too. You can physically go and teach things, teach yoga, work in places. There's like different types of work that you can do as a foreigner, but at the very least you can work on your laptop. We met people that are working in agriculture as foreigners. Honestly, my favorite people here are the Eastern Europeans. They're so funny and I just love the culture. Like, I love the vibe of Eastern Europeans. It's just very funny and interesting to me. It's very exotic for me because it's like I didn't know Eastern Europeans before. Like, I didn't know a lot of them. I don't know if any of you guys are, like Russian or Ukrainian or like Polish or Belarusian or whatever. There's so many different types. Romanian. So they're so interesting, and especially like, there's a big Russian community here, and the types of businesses that people are running are so interesting. People are doing real estate. They're working in agriculture. They're buying land. They're fixing it up, growing crops in it, selling it, exporting it to other countries. They're finding out which countries are looking for which types of crops from Indonesia or from other nearby countries. Real estate, fix and flip, prefab homes, architecture. There is, yeah, and then there's like a lot of people working in IT. Like the Westerners are mostly working, the ones that I met are mostly working in IT, all working from their laptops. Then there's people like Andrew and his friends that are working in like, they're building like on the ground businesses, systems, and there's just so much to be built. There's so much infrastructure to be built. There's so much systems, hospitals that need to be built, security systems to be built. I don't know, like climate systems for improving the air or improving people's lives. Like, there's just so much to do. It's really nice to see what happens when people are not living in like a tiny little bubble. Like, it's really nice there is a lot to do, and even more than there is to do in a place that has already peaked and that already has everything that you need. You know, a place that there's already a million of what you need. Maybe no one's gonna pay you to just add, you know, the market's already saturated. But here in Bali, there's actually still a lot that is needed, and a lot of big money to be made. There's always a new cafe popping up, always a new retreat center. People are building all kinds of retreat centers. If you're smaller, you're just by yourself, you don't have money, you came here with no money to invest in anything, you don't really want to deal with the big system, you just want to teach yoga. Yoga is so expensive. Here, yoga is like, people are charging at least $10-$20 for yoga, which you might say, oh, that's nothing. For outside of the United States, $10-$20 for yoga, that's a lot. And you're paying it for every single class, and you have these classes filled with like a ton of people. $10-$20 for yoga, and you have a class of 10 people, that's a month of rent right there in one class. So you can, there's yoga, there's all kinds of coaches, people are teaching somatic techniques, sound healing, massages, like people are teaching all kinds of stuff. Yeah, the massages I told you about are cheap, but what if there's this lady who does craniosacral therapy, and she does like a very specific type of massage, and she charges like 200 something an hour. People are charging, the more specific, the more special you are, like the better. And there's really some, you know, and if you don't find it here, you can find it somewhere else. Like in a place where it's not saturated, you set up a Google Maps business and, you know, start offering services. It's, I think really when people say, how do you make money there? How do you make a living? Oftentimes, if they're American, they're really asking, where can I find that one sugar daddy that will sustain my whole lifestyle? Where can I find that one boss that is going to pay for all of my expensive bills? And, you know, that's just, it's cool that you were able to survive, and people were able to survive for that long, that people were so wealthy that like they were able to sustain your whole lifestyle. One person was able to sustain your whole lifestyle, but that's just not how it works in a lot of other places. You're not gonna, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be hard to find that one job. And so there's people that still do that. A lot of Westerners that come here, they just have that one job that's sustaining them. But outside of Westerners, like most people that I meet are just entrepreneurs, and the whole fanciness of the word entrepreneur is silly to me, because like I said, it's just being a human that takes care of themselves, that doesn't have one daddy paying for all of their needs like we're used to in the States. Is like, oh, like you get one person's gonna pay for everything. Oh, how are you gonna find a big sugar daddy boss in Bali that's going to pay for everything? You don't. You learn to be just like everybody else, and you sell your services to the public, and the public is your daddy, and you figure, you know, but it's hard to do that because it requires a mindset shift. It requires you being comfortable with seeing yourself as the daddy. You know, it's requires changing your mindset so that you're able to sell yourself and feel confident selling yourself, which it's for a lot of people that have been in like a job their whole life, they have been basically like a slave their whole life. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to like go out there and say, hire me, I will be your whatever. You know, you're gonna get stuck in your head, you're not gonna feel confident, you're gonna say, oh, there's a big bug. You're gonna get in your head, you're gonna say everybody else is so much better than me, Everybody else can do it so much better than me. I should work harder to be better. I should get more degrees, licenses. Like, nobody here is licensed. Everyone just sells what they got. And it's just like, fake it till you make it or whatever. Nate says, oh, Nate says, I just caught you. Turn on your donos next time. By the way, these live streams are all because of Nate. They're all, these live streams are all because of Nate. And everyone say thank you to Nate. And also, my channel is not monetized for the time being, so that's why you can't do super chats. So I forgot about that. It's not monetized. Because I hadn't posted for a year, so I lost my monetization. But someday, let's see. Al C. Mario says, I want to see you all without trash. I don't understand. But anyways, I'm gonna go now because we have some packing to do. And see you guys in the next live stream. I'll tell you how it goes. Tell you if it's a nice place, and if we've been getting some good sleep from it. And for now, I'm just gonna go to that cafe and have some smoothie bowl and cappuccino, because that's our little thing now. Okay, see you guys.